everyone, it is Shannon, and I am here today to talk about a film for the 31 Days of Horror 2019, and that film is The Hitch-Hiker from 1953. Let's look at some of the details. So this was directed by Ida Lupino, which is awesome. I actually did not know it was directed by a woman until I saw this shot when I was looking up photos, and that is so freaking awesome. But let's get back to the poster here, which is all red. This is a black and white film. It's from 1953. It stars Edmond O'Brien, Frank Lovejoy, and William Talman. And I would put this a bit more in the genre of a thriller or a psychological drama than a horror per se, although what happens is pretty horrific, but it's more sort of like realistic horrific. Also this one is part of the public domain, so if you're interested in watching it, I will leave a link to Internet Archive down below. That being said, it has been preserved. It was the winner of the National Film Preservation Board USA 1998, and like this one actually does say, yeah, this says 35 millimeter archival restoration. That's not what I watched. I watched a pretty grainy version, which is fine. I think sometimes it adds to the charm for some films. And yeah, this one I didn't have a poster that I totally loved. This is another good one. Who will be the next victim? You, the hitchhiker. So we have the two guys in the car and the hitchhiker himself. But one of the things that I found challenging about trying to pick a film or pick a poster is that it is in black and white. So this is really, you know, a lot of what you see in the film is them in the car. And sometimes I feel like, I think of this time too, oh, that's a good one of the title card. That's a good one. That's a good one. And, let's go with this one. Let's go with the red one. Let's go with the red. Yeah, so this is part of the public domain. I will leave the link to the Internet Archive down below. I ended up giving this one a 7 out of 10 or a 3 out of 5, but I did not give it a heart as much as I wanted to. But it just, for me, these kinds of movies I find really hard because we have a character of the hitchhiker who preys upon people. And in this case, it's a driver and his friend who are in Mexico, and I thought they started in the States, but they definitely were in Mexico for most of it. Like he keeps threatening them throughout the entirety of the film, like, you know, egging them on to do things, making them obviously drive him around, just threatening him, threatening other people, threatening the two guys, threatening other people, threatening them to do things. And I find that very tense. It's just not something that I really enjoy in terms of a theme. Although, like, going into it, I guess I didn't know what type of movie this is. There are several movies called, like, there's also The Hitcher, and I think there's another one called The Hitch-Hiker, and I think The Hitcher was been remade, and I don't know if they all sort of stem from this or if they're just all different stories about hitchhikers. And this one did start by saying, like, it was, like, based on a true events, and I don't know if that's true or not. It's like some film posters, like, you know, that they don't necessarily super represent the film, especially sort of like the ones that are like drive-in movies, like sometimes they don't have a huge correlation. This didn't feel that way. This very much represents it, but I don't know if it's based on true events about a particular person who was going through you know, forcing people to drive him, and then what ended up happening is he would kill them. So, you know, take their stuff and kill them. And it was, so, you know, like, you know, I guess I should have known pretty early on that I was going to be uncomfortable with that. And then I will say that the tension level is good and the storytelling is good because it does have that development of like being fearful and then trying to find a way around things. Is it possible? Are the two guys going to be in agreement in trying to do something or not do something? And then if so, what to do? And I think that's really good. Like, those are good story points and a good arc. And so I think that is like a moral question. Is it a moral question? It is, you know, a question. Are you going to do what someone says because they're threatening you or someone else? Will you succumb? Will you change your own, I wouldn't necessarily say it's changing your own morals, because technically, as we understand this now, then it's like, you know, someone's basically kidnapping you and forcing you to do something. Otherwise, they're threatening to kill you or kill someone else or hurt you or hurt someone else. So I think we, like, you know, through like lots of law shows and stuff, I think people are more aware of that, but that doesn't. But would you like? What choice would you make? What moral choice would you make in that moment? I don't know. I hope we never have to face those choices because it's horrible things. And the horrible things actually lies on the person who's trying to make you do the thing. That is where the horribleness is, in the person who's trying to force someone else to do something. And that is a theme that I do not like. That is something in stories that I do not like. I am not interested in. Forcing people to do things that they don't want to do is never okay. It is never okay. So I think that's why this doesn't get a heart, because I don't like the themes that it explores, even if it explores them well. This one was really, it wasn't that long. I can't remember actually how long it was. Maybe an hour and a half, maybe a little less than that. Maybe an hour and 10. I can't remember. But the tension does build and build and build. And you feel the weight of the situation on the characters because it goes on for a fair amount of time. And so you just feel them sort of lose the spirit of trying to not succumb to what this guy asks them to do. And so that is also very disheartening and challenging too. So there are a couple other things that I do want to mention about the film. Some of it, there are scenes that are not in English that aren't subtitled, and the hitchhiker character is very not nice about the Mexican characters in the film. But I think that they do that to show that he's a bad person and mean, but just so you know that it's also part of that as well. So all of those are really, generally things that I'm not interested in films. I don't enjoy films that have them, but overall I thought it was well done. I thought the tension was good. It didn't scare me in terms of the sense of I didn't find it scary while I was watching, but I do find the idea of people doing this kind of thing, whether it's specifically hitchhiking or anything, I do find that scary because it's horrible. It's an absolutely horrible thing to do. So again, it comes back to it just being one of the subgenres of horror, or more, I would say this really is more of a thriller because it's more of a psychological drama. But it was well done. I liked the characters of the guys in the car, the guys that were that picked up the hitchhiker. It was one of the things that I liked about it is that because they pick up the hitchhiker very quickly, you don't know much about them. So you have to interpret their story while they're not very much openly talking to each other. And that was interesting. So you had to sort of figure out, are they telling the truth when the hitchhiker asks them questions? Are they both telling the truth? Are they trying to tell each other something by not telling the truth or by telling the truth? Are they trying to gain sympathy from him, from each other, send a signal? Those kinds of things were really good. And I thought the acting by all of them was good, which I think you do really need with such a small cast. They do go stop into places and talk to people, but generally the cast is the three of them throughout the film. So there you go. There is The Hitchhiker. Let me know, have you seen it? Did you enjoy it? Do you like psychological dramas? And do you consider psychological dramas horror, or do you consider them their own thing? So yeah, so this one worked into the mix, and it was curious to see something that was both public domain but also had been restored. So that's actually pretty cool. So that's a first for me in terms of researching, although I'm sure there's many films that this has happened to. But yeah, just in terms of this year, it might be the only one where that happens to. Who knows? So there you go. Another day of 31 Days of Horror. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you for the next one.